إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. يقول ربنا جل في علاه: يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. In the rough translation of this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding the believers to fear Him. Ittaqullah. Qu anfusakum. Protect yourself from the fire, which its fuel is rocks and people. But not only you and your families. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum. You and your families. And as we know, families are comprised of what? Of the wife and the children. So it is necessary for us to protect ourselves from the fire and protect our children as well. How we go about doing this? By obeying Allah. By obeying Allah. By implementing His commandments and refraining from His prohibitions. Refraining from His prohibitions. Us and our children. There is no doubt that raising our children Islamically is the biggest challenge for us community of believers in America. In the West in general. Very, very tough challenge. And very, very dangerous, task to raise our children Islamically. There has been very troubling, disheartening examples of children who disobeyed their parents and did outrageous things. And let me give you examples. There is that father who came back home to find his daughter, holding hands with a stranger. He came unexpectedly to his home to find his daughter with a stranger holding hands in the sofa. Of course, like any other father, he became outraged. He stormed at them. He threw a fit. And you know what happened? The daughter called 911. She told him, "This is my boyfriend. This is America. This is not illegal to have a boyfriend." Now just imagine how that father would feel. You see? And there is that father who has been approached by two of his children to tell him that we are seculars. Seculars, we don't follow any religion. And his third son told him he is an atheist. Very, very, dangerous challenges against us, community of Muslims. You see? And let me give you another source of danger that is targeting our children. Do you know that they are teaching the evolution theory in schools, right? Evolution theory, نظرية Darwin. It is being taught in schools, in the universities, and there is correlation between this theory and atheism. Atheism is using this theory as a vehicle to be spread. The most proponent person of the evolution theory, his name is Richard Dawkins from Britain. This guy, he's also the most famous atheist. You see the relationship between the two? They are trying to say, oh, we came by chance, the evolution after billions of years. And the atheists love that. The atheists love this theory. So we have to teach our children about Allah, about His amazing creations, about the universe. We have to teach them Aqidah from early age. Now, before I tell you the steps through which we can raise, inshallah, good children, and ultimately you have to bear in mind that it is Allah's decision. Remember, Nuh alayhi salam stayed 950 years preaching Islam, yet he could not bring his son to believe in him. You see? So let alone people like us, he was prophet among Ulil Azm, those with determination, yet Allah decided that his son will not become a Muslim. So it is possible that you try to raise your children Islamically, you do everything in your power, but Allah predestined them to go other ways. But you are not going to be responsible. Alhamdulillah. If you exert all your efforts and you fail, alhamdulillah, you say, هذا قضاء الله وقدر قدر الله وما شاء فعل. But you have to try. You are not responsible for the result, but we are responsible for the effort. The result is decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first step, my brothers, is to bring righteous children, is to continuously make dua. Every day, whenever you remember, ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. Always pray, because Allah is the source of guidance. Guidance is two types. They say هداية الإلهام والتوفيق وهداية التعليم والإرشاد. Two types of guidance. The guidance of inspiration, that's only owned by Allah. And the guidance of teaching, we have that. We can teach. But it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who decides whether your effort will pay off or not. So we have to continuously make dua. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, prominent scholar, very prominent scholar. He had a son by the name of Ali. And we are talking about brothers like 1,000 years ago. There was no internet, no distractions like the ones that we are dealing with right now. There weren't challenges such the ones that we are facing. Yet his son was not, obedient to Allah, was deviant. So he started making this dua. Remember it, it's very nice. He started saying, اللهم إني اجتهدت في تربية علي فلم أقدر اللهم ربه لي. اللهم إنني اجتهدت في تربية علي فلم أقدر اللهم ربه لي. He said, Ya Allah, I have struggled, to cultivate Ali, my son. I failed. Please do that for me. And Ali became scholar. Ended up becoming scholar, subhanAllah. You know? Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak said, لم أرى أخوف لله من الفضيل بن عياض وابنه. Subhanallah, after Allah guided him. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, another scholar, he said, I never seen two fearful people of Allah like Al-Fudayl and his son after Allah guided him. So make dua, brothers. I remind myself and you to make dua all the time. You know, make dua all the time. Ya Allah, I tried, I could not. Ya Allah, I'm really facing an enormous struggle. Unless you assist me, I am bound to fail. So always do that. Always pray to Allah. This is the number one. The second element that inshallah will help you raise righteous children, especially for those who are not, who have not married yet, who are single amongst you. You are the only one. Don't be afraid. I'm not bringing any wives or anything. You know? Okay. So we have only one. You need to start raising your children Islamically before they even come to life. One might ask, what are you talking about? How can I raise my children Islamically before they even exist? By choosing their mothers. By choosing their mothers. The Prophet ﷺ said, تنكح المرأة لأربع لجمالها ولنسبها ولحسبها ولدينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك. The Prophet ﷺ said the woman is married for 4 reasons. For her beauty, for her lineage. She's like from prominent family, the Ganduri family, the Khan family, the whatever family. And some people have this fascination to marry someone with prominence. And then he said the third thing is for her wealth. She's wealthy. And the fourth is for her religion. She's righteous. He said, marry the one with religion. Marry the one with religion. Why? The first teacher of your children is not you. The mother. The mother who start from early age, you know, hugging him, breastfeeding him, talking to him. And some women started reading the Quran to their fetus inside their wombs when they were pregnant. And subhanAllah, they ended up being hafiz of the Quran. And the science proved that the fetus in certain stage start hearing you and recognizing even your voice. So this is how you start. Now, the Arabic poet Hafiz Ibrahim, rahimahullah, شاعر النيل, قال الأم مدرسة إذا أعددتها أعددت شعبا طيب الأعراق. The woman is like a school. If you prepare her well, you are preparing a whole nation. If you prepare her well, you are preparing a whole nation. My dear brother there, don't compromise the religion when you search for that woman. Number one factor, my sincere advice to myself and you. Now, some of you who have married and did not consider this factor, they married for beauty maybe, the first factor, or for whatever element. It is not too late. You can teach your children. My dear son, could you bring me that water there? 1 bottle, it's okay. My mouth dries very fast. Not because of nervousness, but whenever I speak, Jazakallah khair. So, it is not too late. You can teach your wife. Tell your wife, it is not your job to spend hours in the kitchen. Our wives really sometimes spend hours in the kitchen in cleaning, subhanallah. She has a role to play too as a teacher. We have this misconception that the teacher is only the father or the husband. That's not true. Your wife can play an important role, but she has to be taught. If she's not, educated Islamically, then teach her and tell her, listen, this information, I wanted it to be imparted to my children. Spend less time in the kitchen. We can eat even sandwiches. Really, it is very serious battle right now. We may lose our children, by the way. I am sure some of your children, not you in particular, but I'm talking about Muslim teenagers and kids. I am sure you have seen some of them with these ridiculous, ripped jeans. Ripped jeans that can show parts of the thigh. They are imitating others. So it is very serious. Let me ask, there are only 2 kids here. Let's see. I have $100 for the fastest one of you who answered this question. From what tree Adam and his wife ate? From which tree? Good. MashaAllah. Many kids will tell you apple. You know why? Because they have been affected by the environment. And I gave the same lecture in Tracy, and of course, the audience was bigger, and one of them said apple. From where did they learn this? From their, surroundings, from their Christian friends, because this is what the Christian believe, that Adam ate from the apple tree. For us Muslims, we don't know. And of course, it is not the apple tree. We can say this with all confidence. Allah would not prohibit something in paradise and make it permissible in this earthly life. We don't know. We don't know what tree. But that kid who answered me in Tracy learned this from his peers, from his surroundings, maybe from TV. You see how dangerous it is now? So you need to teach your children from early age. Now, all of you know the hadith of Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, said, I was behind the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, كنت خلف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, فقال لي يا غلام, إني أعلمك كلمات احفظ الله يحفظك احفظ الله تجده تجاهك وإذا سألت فاسأل الله وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله واعلم أن الأمة لو اجتمعوا على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك ولو اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله عليك رفعت الأقلام وجفت الصحف. Abdullah ibn Abbas was like 10 years old, and he said that I was behind the Prophet ﷺ, riding an animal. We don't know what kind of animal, camel, horse, mule, Allahu Alam. He said I was behind him, and he told me, oh boy, I'm teaching you words. Why he told him, oh boy, I'm teaching you words, and not immediately start teaching him? He wanted him to pay attention. See the teaching style? He wanted him to pay attention. Because kids sometimes will be looking everywhere, so he told him, إني أعلمك كلمات, I'm teaching you words, so pay attention. He told him, احفظ الله يحفظك. Obey Allah and Allah will protect you. Meaning, احفظ الله, preserve Allah, meaning preserve His commandments, and Allah will protect you. احفظ الله تجده تجاهك. Obey Allah and Allah will be there for you. And if you ask Allah. Don't ask Al-Badawi. Don't ask Al-Hussein. Don't ask Ya Ali. No. Ask Allah alone. وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. And if you seek assistance, seek it from Allah. In things that only Allah can do. Of course, you can borrow money from your friend. You can ask him to give you right. But don't, may Allah forbid, if you get, let's say, some type of disease, and they tell you, oh, there is a blessed man, wali, go to him, he may help you. No, that's haram. Don't go to that alleged wali and say, oh, I got sickness, can you pray to Allah for me? No, you pray to Allah. He is helpless like you. He's a human being. Eat, drink, and go to the bathroom. So don't seek any things that only Allah can do from no human being. Ask only Allah. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةِ, he told him, be aware that if the whole world got together to benefit you, they are not going to benefit you except by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala predestined you to benefit. And if the whole world got together to harm you, they are not going to harm you except by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala predestined you to be harmed. رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامُ وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفُ. Pens have been lifted and the scriptures are dry. That means the matter has been decided. 50,000 years before Allah creating heaven and earth. 50,000 years. And earth has been said by some scholars to be like 15 billion years old. So 50,000 years before that, Allah wrote everything about us. It's amazing. You see? So teach your children about qada wa qadar. Don't say, oh, they are too young to comprehend this. Teach them about arkan al-iman. Wallahi, let me ask this question. How old are you? 9. And you? 12. Take deep breath so you don't be nervous. What are the pillars of faith? See? Pillars of faith. This is basic. We have to teach our children pillars of faith. أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره. Many kids sometimes mistake this for the pillars of Islam. So, الشهادتان, الصلاة, الزكاة, الصوم. No, pillars, articles of faith. Pillars of faith, 6. So be careful, my brothers. We have test your children, ask them. And if they don't know, tell them. Tell them. And these are the articles of faith. We don't believe in and I have to tell you this, brothers, unfortunately, because ignoring this or the lack of knowledge of this may lead to some people believe in them as an article of faith. We don't believe in the imamate. There is no such thing as the 12 imams in our religion. In Islam, we follow Quran and Sunnah based on the companions' understanding, based on the Sahaba understanding. And there is no such thing as believing in 12 imams after the Prophet ﷺ. Those who believe in them, they are free to believe in them. But those who want to follow the Quran and the teaching of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in accordance with the understanding of the Sahaba, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. So make sure you teach your children the articles of faith, 6 articles of faith, and teach them that whatever sunnah we have to implement in our lives, it has to be based on the understanding of Sahaba. Radiyallahu anhum. They are the best human beings after the prophets of Allah. And teach them that this religion is not a religion of dynasties. This is not a dynasty religion. The most honorable amongst us, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, is the most righteous. We love Ahlul Bayt. We love the family of the Prophet ﷺ, but we don't look at them as holy, as, people that we just need to follow. No, they themselves, Ahlul Bayt, used to follow the Sunnah. So we love them more than loving our families, but we don't look at them as holies. There is no dynasties in Islam. Always teach your children this, because sometimes they could be targeted, to believe otherwise. So it is very important. So the first one we said a dua. The second is choosing their mothers and teaching the mothers. The third thing is teaching them. Designate time for them. Don't say, Ya akhi, I'm working 10 hours a day. I am bringing food to the table. I am very tired. You know, mashallah, 90, maybe 5% of the Muslims are doing excellent job in feeding their families, in clothing them, and bringing them sometimes the best clothing, bringing them the most luxurious food or the most expensive food. But how about teaching them what will benefit them after they die? How about teaching them Islam? What are you going to say to Allah if He asks you? Are you going to say, oh, I was very tired, I'm working 8 hours? Okay, how come you don't say that if there is a match between Barcelona or whatever, a soccer game? You manage to find the time, mashallah. You manage to find the time if there is a feast. Somebody invited you for nice feast and you know he's, mashallah, open-handed, generous, a human being. He's going to cook nice food. You manage to find the time. But when it comes to teaching your children, you always have excuse. So that's very, very tough situation for the person in the Day of Judgment. Allah will ask you, the number one priority should be teaching our children Islam, instilling, faith in them. And those who say, oh, akhi, really it's tough. Of course it is tough. But let me tell you this story and tell me which one is tougher. The situation that I am going to tell you or our situations. Muhammad Abd al-Rafi' al-Andalusi was an eminent scholar in Tunisia. He was teaching his children, and you can tell by his name, Al-Andalusi, that he came from Al-Andalus. He came from Spain. One time he was teaching his students, and he told them, my students, I have a story to tell you. He said, when I was 6 years old, I lived in Granada, Cordoba, in Al-Andalus. And every time I go to school, I noticed that my mom will hug me maybe 3 times before I leave, as if I am not coming back at all, as if I am going to die. And she would be very pale, very sad. And my father also will be looking down, sad. He will give me a hug, like you can see that his eyes started tearing up. And I could not understand what's going on. And sometimes he said, I will hear my parents whispering in a foreign language. And when I get closer to them, they will stop. They will stop talking to each other with that foreign language. I said, wow, why they do this to me? And then he said, my mother, Allah gave my mother a new child. So my father was so upset, was so sad. And he went to bring the pastor to baptize him, to baptize this child. He said he came with his head down. The pastor baptized him, and then he left. Then he said, when I became 10 years old, around 10 years old, my father, like it was festivities in the city. You can hear noise. So he took advantage of this to speak to me. He said, come, I want to speak with you. He took me to a room that I never entered before. He would not allow me to enter it. We entered that room. He lit the candle, and I saw a book. He said, do you know what's this book? I said, no. Is this the Bible? He said, no. this is the Quran. He said, what is the Quran? He told me, this is the last message that Allah sent to humanity. No, before telling him this, he told him, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you reveal, me and you and your mom will be burned alive. Are you able to keep a secret? He said, yes. Are you able to keep a secret? He said, yes. Then he asked him about that book. He said, do you know this book? He said, no. He told him, this is the Quran. What is the Quran? The last message that Allah sent to humanity. And you are a Muslim. I am a Muslim. Oh, we are not Christians? No. And if you ever tell this secret, the Inquisition courts will take you and kill us all. Now, he said, the minute he mentioned the Inquisition courts, Mahakim al-Taftish, I became trembling because I see them dragging women to be burned or crucified. And you know who are that women, my brothers? They were Muslims. Muslims or Jewish. But the majority were Muslims. You know? So he said, I became so afraid. Then my mom came to me after a few days. She said, what your father was teaching you? So, I don't know. He would not reveal what his father was teaching him. She pressured me. He said, no. She pressured him enormously. He would not reveal what his father told him. Then she told him, I am a Muslim too. I was testing you. So be careful. And he knew that they were talking in Arabic. You remember that language? And when he came to them, they would stop. They pretended to be Christians. Because what happened is when Spain fell at the hands of the Christians, they started pressuring them to be Christians or being killed. So many pretended to be Christians, but they lived in a very horrific circumstances. So he taught me, he said, the Arabic. He taught me the Quran. And then one time he brought a stranger man. He said, you know this man? He's like my brother. Consider him like your uncle. And if he ever comes to you and asks you to do something, obey him. He said, okay. He started teaching me too, that man. And then he said, one time I came back from the school and I saw that stranger man calling upon me, come, come. He was like hiding behind a bushes. He said, what? He said, let's go. He said, where? He told him, he reminded him, didn't your father tell you to obey me? He said, yes. Then obey me and be quiet. So he took me to a ship and we boarded the ship. And then he told me, your parents have been killed by the Inquisition courts. May Allah accept them as martyrs. Now this man became a scholar. And look the circumstances in which he was cultivated. He has been taught. You know, so there is no excuse for us, brothers. No excuse whatsoever. You have to designate time for your children. The fourth thing is, treat them, especially when they are young, like friends. Hug them. There is nothing wrong to tell your child, I love you 4 or 5 times a day. Believe me, it will bolster the relationship between you. Tell him, I love you. When you come back, when you go, and encourage them to reveal to you their concerns. If you don't do that, guess what? Their friends may snatch them away from you. And they spend more time with them than you. They spend, 6 hours in the school? 7 hours in the school? So if you don't provide your children with sufficient love and compassion, they may end up, taken away from their friends, either in the school or in the neighborhood. And let me tell you this heartening story that I know personally. I lived in Stockton in 1990 for 6 years. And I got to know a child by the name of Ali. I knew his brother-in-law, His name is Shaheen. He converted to Islam. And this boy was amazing, was very dynamic, running away. It's incredible, full with energy. You know, blue eyes. One time, wallahi, I challenged him, may Allah forgive me. And Allah taught me a very painful lesson. I was doing bench press in his brother-in-law garage. And he said, oh, I can do this or can move it. I told him, Ali, if you move the rack, if you move it was like 60 kilo, like 135. If you move it from the rack, I'll give you $100. So, oh, and he moved it. I said, man, what I did to myself. Well, I said, Allah wanted to teach me a lesson. And I paid him the $100, you know. So anyway, this boy, I started working in prison in 1996 as a chaplain. In the year 2008, I believe, 2008, I was at Folsom Prison. I was working at Folsom Prison. And I met a guard whom, after speaking with, told me he knows so-and-so. He mentioned the name of a lady, Muslim lady. He said, she's related to me. I said, really? He said, yes. I told him, I know her. I know her son, Ali. Please give me his number. Because at that time, I knew he would be a teenager, and it is very dangerous for him. I wanted to warn him from the gangs, and I want to know how is he doing. You know, I really loved him. So he said, okay. He brought me a number of his aunt, because both of his parents were in Egypt studying Arabic. And they left him in Auckland with his aunt. And Auckland was like one of the headquarters of gangs. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So I tried calling that number numerous times to no avail. Then I met him again, that guard. I said, my brother, the number doesn't work. He said, okay, I'll bring you another number. The third time when I met him, he told me, did you hear? I said, what? He said, Ali was charged with a homicide. He killed somebody, drive-by shooting. You know how many years they gave him, brothers? 40 years. 40 years. He's the only child of his mom. And for his father, he has a daughter whom I told you married to a friend of mine from previous marriage. Him and that daughter. Just imagine the devastation that took place against his mom. His mom right now is kind of, I don't know, we tried to call her recently. She's not acting normal. You see? They did, mashallah, they had good intention to learn the Arabic, but you don't leave your child in Auckland. He was a teenager. He ended up snatched by the gang. And you know what the gang do? The gang, if you are absent from your children's lives, they will act like a father and mother to the person. They will embrace him, they will give him food, they will give him money, protection, but of course he has to listen to them, he has to obey them. We want to attack certain gang, you have to be with us. If you don't do that, we will hurt you. You see, this is how the gang operates. So you have to be the source of compassion, of love to your children. This is really basically what we have to do. We have to also choose the companions for them, or make sure that they don't mingle with anybody. In Arabic, they say, as-sahibu sahib. As-sahib, sahib. The companion pulls you. Either pulls you to do goodness, or pulls you to do wrong. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi فليعرف كل منكم من يخالل أو كما قال فليعرف أحدكم من يخالل. The person is in accordance with his friend's ways. So let each one of you choose his companion. So I'll start here. I have another teaching tonight at my Masjid in Masjid al-Salam, 1852 Fulton. If you have any questions, I will open to questions and comments or corrections.
جزاك الله خير.
أجمعين. الله يبارك.